was standing still on the highway or freeway, whatever, not the freeway, on the road, trying to make a left turn, and I didn't see it in time, so I just went crashed right into it. But the thing was, I was wearing only shorts and a tank top and an open helmet as well. And if normally when you crash your motorcycle, you crash into something, and then the person, goes flying and skidding on the asphalt, and then you get all these burns and shit. And you don't have any skin left on your arms and legs if you're not wearing protection, which I wasn't at the time. But I was so lucky because I went right into the car and then sort of smashed my head into the back windscreen and bounced out again. And instead of just flying away, I bounced out again and landed on the asphalt right next to the car. So that I broke my arm pretty badly. I had bruises and cuts all over my face. I think a couple of months later, I had some. No, it was my ear. I was just itching or scratching my ear. It's like, oh, what the fuck is this? And one of these, little square glass pieces from the windshield came out months later. I'm not kidding. It was really strange. But that's the only accident I ever had on the motorcycle. But that was a really bad one. We were at the end of a tour, but we still had to cancel a couple of shows. And one of them was the next day, I believe. Maybe 2 days later or the next day. It was the biggest show we ever done in Sweden. Oh. It was a free show outdoors for the whole city. It's been posters all over the city. It was organized by the city government, so it's a really big thing. Everybody was going to go there, sorry, I fucked that up by crashing my motorcycle. Because basically what happened, my arm was, I didn't realize, I just bam, I didn't have time to react, and then I walked out of the accident. My brother has told me all this afterwards because he was in a car right behind me, so he witnessed everything firsthand. So he parked the car and went to help me. And afterwards, he told me that I came walking towards him, because my first thought, and this sounds ridiculous, but that's actually true, because of this show was so big that we were going to do the Hammerfall show, that my first thought was, oh fuck, I hope I didn't fuck this up now for the show. So I lifted my arms. I lifted first the right arm. It's like, oh yeah, there's no problem here, looks good. And then I lifted the left arm. And instead of standing up like that, it was just hanging like this, was just stuck in with the skin, and because it's called a butterfly break when you have one piece of bone here and one piece of bone there, and then two butterfly wings on the sides. That's basically, so the arm was completely off, and I was in the hospital for a couple of weeks. I had a cast for 2 months, maybe not that long, maybe a month and a half, but it was a long process to get back to playing shape again. It took me a while also because I was worried that, because when I broke my right arm, like I said, that was in 1993, so it was a long time ago. I didn't have a job. I didn't have any, I wanted to play guitar. I wanted to play in the band, but I wasn't depending on it in the same way that I was in 2003. That was my livelihood, my career, basically. So when I was sort of recuperating, went to the physiotherapist and stuff, I was really worried, and I took things slow, and I really wanted to make sure that I could come back and be as good as I was before. And I was also worried that I might not, because it was a pretty bad break, and I remember from 10 years earlier that I had problems playing guitar. I still have to this day. It's difficult to explain, but I can't really. Never mind. There were some problems that made me adjust my guitar playing back from 1993. So 2003, I was worried that the same thing was going to happen, but it didn't, luckily. So I was back to normal in about 6 months. But I kept my motorcycle for the longest time. I drove it many times, but over the years I drove it less and less, and I actually sold it last year, so I don't have it anymore.
Wow, that experience helped you in your inspiration. It changed in some way your approach to music. Did you express all that anywhere?
Um, Good question. I mean, the album that we wrote after that was Chapter 5, Unbent, Unbowed, Unbroken. And that album has some songs that, because I remember when I wrote that album, and when I started writing music, I wasn't sure if what's going to happen, because it's been so long since we did this. And also I had this kind of traumatizing experience in between. But I was just happy that I was back to normal. I was so happy that I could perform and do the things I wanted to do with the guitar once I started getting back in shape, basically playing shape again. So for me, it was more a case of feeling fortunate that nothing worse happened, basically, and that's what I took with me to the songwriting.
Really nice. Wow. How does a band keep being relevant for more than 20 years? I mean, I can see your 3 first recordings were easy cake, you were at the top, but with the arrival of the rest of the melodic panorama, Hammerfall had to also embark in a quest, because you have been looking for a sound. I remember, for example, Renegade, you went to the US to record with the Mr. Wagner, and I want to know, what are your reflections about Hammerfall career after Renegade until today? How do you see that? Of course,
it's difficult to answer, because what I think you're getting at is that we had some kind of long-term plan, like this is what we're doing or whatever, and it really was never a case of that. For us, it was a matter of with Renegade, for example, why we went to Nashville to record with Michael Wagner was because he recorded Balls to the Wall. He recorded all the or maybe it wasn't Balls to the Wall. Now I might be mistaken, but he recorded Accept anyway. He recorded bands that we loved. He did some great productions, and he was even in Accept at one point, right? Early stages, maybe even before they were Accept, but the band that became Accept after that. I think maybe he and Wolf for a while before all the other guys came on or something. So whatever. So it was, for us, it was a cool thing to record with the guy who recorded our heroes. He worked on he did Looks That Kill, the first Motley Crue album. Not Looks That Kill. I'm a fucking idiot. Too Fast for Love, of course, yeah. Too Fast for Love, he did that one, but not the one that ended up on Elektra, but the one that they released themselves, the leather recordings or whatever they call it, before that. He also worked with Ozzy Osbourne and Metallica, and he worked with so many big names. That's why we wanted to try something new, basically, something that might enhance our sound a little bit. But from our point of view, from Hammerfall's standpoint, we've always been heavily involved in like a lot of bands, especially in the 80s, of course, but some bands just came to the recordings with a bunch of ideas, and then they all, together with the producer, put together the songs and sort of created the sound of the album. And that's never been our style. I mean, we write the music beforehand, we go deep into it, we try to improve every little detail that we can, and try to make it as complete as possible before we start the recordings. And that means that it's not that much space left for a producer to put his fingerprints on it, really. I mean, what we really have needed throughout the years is a great technician. And of course, a producer can come up with great ideas, like change this into that, and what if you do this instead, and whatever. And of course, that's what people have done. But we have never been one of those bands that come into a recording session and being dependent on the producer. So what we have been dependent on is the guy that can set a great sound for us more than anything else, and of course guide us and coach us through the recording, obviously. But that's what what we have been trying to do. I mean, after Michael Wagner came Charlie Bauerfeind for 4 albums, I believe, and it was great working with Charlie in a lot of ways. It was also really, really demanding and really taxing on mentally as well as physically. And from Infected on, we started recording things ourselves, because Pontus he's also a producer of albums, and he knows a lot of the studio equipment. He's really good at Pro Tools and stuff like that. So he's also been thanks to Pontus, we've been able to record a lot of the things ourselves from that point on, and that has created a much more stress-free atmosphere in the studio. I mean, Fredrik Nordström has been involved, of course, but on the day-to-day operations of the last 3 albums have all been us and Fredrik, sort of overseeing it, maybe setting the sound, and we send him some stuff. This is where we're going. What do you think of that? But more or less doing the things ourselves, and that has helped to. And that's exactly what we have needed all the time, all along. I mean, there's no way we could have done this without Pontus or before Pontus, because we didn't have the knowledge to do it. But now we have Pontus, and he has the knowledge, so that's where we're going. And I think the last 3 albums have been really fun to record, more fun than anything else previously, I think.
Nice. You stayed many years with Nuclear Blast.
Yes.
Revolution album is one of the greatest Hammerfall's in Hammerfall's history, with certain return to roots and many aspects, but also including great songs. That was your last album with them. What happened?
Well, yeah, nothing really happened. It was more a case of like we started talking about the next album and what do you want to do and how do you see Hammerfall. And by then they had so many other bands that they sort of took us for granted. I think they knew that, or they thought they knew that they were never going to leave. Hammerfall's never going to leave. So we don't have to put so much effort into anything anymore because it sells itself basically. And Hammerfall didn't want to do that. We didn't want to just, level out. We wanted to keep growing, keep, like a plant, you grow in different directions. Wherever the sun is, that's where you're going. So we started talking to other labels, and we started talking to Napalm, and they said all the right things. Made us feel valuable. In a way that maybe Nuclear Blast didn't. And again, let me just say, Nuclear Blast never did anything wrong. It was never like, oh yeah, fuck those guys. We're still really good friends with them. It was, for us, it was a matter of growth, really. To be challenged to do something new, to be a big fish in a small pond rather than a small fish in a big pond, for example. Because Napalm was and is a much smaller label, obviously. So that's really the reason,
But they're doing a really nice job. Napalm, of course, it's not Nuclear Blast, it's not that big, but from the distance, I can see they are building something. They have, I don't know. I like the vibe of that.
Okay,
it makes me remember Nuclear Blast 20 years ago.
Yeah, but that's what it reminded us of too. When we signed with Blast in the first place, that's where we felt like Napalm was heading in the same direction as they were. So that's really what swayed us over.
All right. Okay. Tell us about Dominion. You have just released an album, the new Hammerfall album. This is the second with Napalm.
Yes.
What's the story behind it and the meaning of the project, of the concept? If there's one.
No, there's no concept. We haven't done a concept album yet, and I doubt that we ever will. It's we leave that for the masters like Alice Cooper and King Diamond to do that. We started writing songs quite early for Dominion. Normally when an album is recorded and finished and everything is done, I'm so sick of the shit, I don't want to hear anything about it. Because it's been such an intense period of work that I need a couple of months to just, back off a little bit. With Dominion, or rather with Built to Last, nowadays you can't really do that. You can't take a couple of months off before the recording to write songs. There's no way. We just can't. You can't do what we did in the 10, 15 years ago, which was have 6 to 8 months no shows anywhere, just dedicated to writing songs, basically. And we can't do that anymore. We need to be out on the road much more than we used to. And also, of course, all the streaming services and stuff means that you sell less albums, even though the streaming means that more people listen to it. You don't get as an artist, you don't get as much money as you used to. So we need to be out playing shows, and also the world is getting smaller, or bigger, depending on the way you look at it. But there